Good evening, everybody. We'll begin commencing our trustee appointment ad hoc committee meeting for Tuesday, November 17th. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Do we have any declarations of interest? Seeing none, could I have someone approve the agenda? Carolyn, I see you on screen. Trustee Morton, all in favor? Our next item is to, and that carries, our next item is to establish the chair of the committee. Do we have nominations?
Is there any way I can nominate two people?
That's a good question. I think you can only nominate one.
Okay. Now I have to flip a coin. Can I nominate Michael for this? Because I'd like to keep the chair as the Oshawa trustee.
Okay. Anybody else have any nominations?
Can you stand the chair, Mr. Chair?
I prefer not to, Paul. I think it.
Okay, that's fine. That's good.
Thanks for asking, though, Paul. Appreciate that.
Nikki had her hand up.
Nikki, go ahead.
I'm presuming that Scott wanted to nominate both Oshawa trustees, so I'll nominate Trustee Forbes.
Okay. So we have Trustee Barrett and Trustee Forbes. Any other nominations? Just going to, oh, perfect. I see that better now that I have that chat screen off. Seeing no further nominations, so we have Trustee Barrett and Trustee Forbes. Would ask both of them. Trustee Barrett, are you willing to stand for this?
No, I will respectfully decline, Chris.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And Darlene, are you willing to stand as chair for the committee?
Yes, and thank you to my nominator.
Thank you. So that being said, Trustee Forbes, you are the chair of the committee. Is everyone? I think everyone's fine with that. So let's move forward then, and I'll turn the chair over to you, Trustee Forbes. Do you need a minute or two, or are you good to go with it now?
I just need a minute because my screen has frozen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. We can give you time. Just let us know.
Okay. Sorry, my screen keeps jumping around. I'm not entirely certain why. I'm just trying to get back to my agenda. All right, so we will move on to item 4, trustee vacancy, City of Oshawa. So I'm not sure if Councillor Cotter wishes to speak to this item about the process that we shall, the options that we have open to us for filling the vacancy.
Sure, I'm happy to provide some guidance on that. Bylaw number 8 provides the board with 3 options. The first would be to go to a by-election. However, the board has already determined that it's not pursuing that option. So the only 2 options left for the committee are either option 1 is to appoint one of the unsuccessful candidates from the electoral area, being Oshawa, and the board already has our report on those candidates, which I can retrieve for the chair if that's of assistance. The second option would be to proceed with an appointment process by way of application and interview. And that process, if the board does elect that process, all the steps, required steps, are set out in section 2.3 of the bylaw. So that should be reasonably simple to implement. So the first question really is, which option does the board wish to pursue?
Thank you, Councillor Cotter. And I'm just going to bring up my participants. And I do see that Trustee Crawford has his hand up. Trustee Crawford?
Yes, I don't want to rush things, but I want to use the process of selecting somebody that ran, and we did have a list of people who ran, so we're very conscious of who finished second in that race, and dare I go right to that. And you mentioned that you had some information back on the candidates. Do we know that the person who finished second is available?
So I'm not aware of, forgive me, I don't know, Councillor Cotter, if anyone has reached out.
That question's for anybody, yeah.
Yeah.
No, so I think part of the process would be for the resolution to have the committee take steps to confirm eligibility and willingness of the selected candidate.
And just point of information, Chair Forbes, I think Trustee Crawford is not referring to the person who finished second. I think he's saying the person who finished fourth. So just point of information.
Yes, I finished second. All right.
I meant of the unsuccessful candidates.
Yes, of course. So, Trustee Crawford, are you putting a motion forward, or would you like
well, I don't want to rush things, but that's the direction I was heading in, is that we try to select someone from the same race that finished closest to the successful candidate or candidates, and if that person was available, that's the person I'd like to offer it to.
All right. Thank you, and I apologize. I've lost I'm not sure. I see two hands that have been raised, and I apologize. I'm not sure who had their hand up first, so I see
Nikki had hers up first.
All right, thank you. Over to you, Trustee Lundquist.
Thank you. So I see it very differently than Trustee Crawford. I view this actually as an opportunity to open a door and potentially cultivate some leadership. I think that we talk about valuing equity, diversity, and inclusiveness, and this is exactly the kind of moment where we have an opportunity to actually invite a broader spectrum of applicants to determine if we can create a board with more equity and diversity on it, but also ultimately make better decision making when we have a diversity of perspective. So I'm certainly not going to move a motion for what's laid out in section 2.3 sub 2 at this stage, because I think discussion is important on it, but certainly that's my belief where we should go. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lundquist. Over to Trustee Barnes.
Thank you. I understand both Trustee Lundquist's point and as well as Trustee Crawford. My thoughts on it is I'm all for equity and I'm very much for diversity. What I am worried about is making a choice for a community that voted. So the person that ran only had a difference of I think it was under 200 votes between them and the next person, and I don't know. I think that's pretty decisive. I think my thing would be different if it was a wider margin. So I'm divided on this, but I would look more towards choosing who the people of Oshawa chose.
Thank you, Trustee Barnes. Next on the speakers list is Trustee Morton.
Hello, everybody. I'm in agreement with Patrice. I'm also in agreement with Paul. because when we look back at those results of October 2018, there was a very narrow margin between the third candidate and the fourth. So, and this person has experience at the board, was highly regarded for her work at the board. So my suggestion would be that we move in that direction.
Thank you, Trustee Morton. I have Trustee.
You're very welcome.
I have Trustee Templeton next on the speakers list.
Yeah, I believe I was looking at everything before. I know we had a by-election a few years back, and there were people that did put names in from Oshawa and other areas, myself. But at this point, I actually agree with Nikki that it does give us a better opportunity to for diversity and equity and everything else. That way, people can come forward and we can actually take a look at that point. So, I'm in favor of the second point of doing not appointment, but doing like interviews. So, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Templeton. Next on the speakers list is Trustee Thatcher.
Yes, hi everyone. Trustees are democratically elected representatives. They represent and serve constituents in their community. So I see much benefit in filling this trustee spot with someone who has 4 years of experience working with the board and also working in the community. Someone who is familiar with the schools and with our systems and has run 2 campaigns, just narrowly missing in the last municipal election. So members of the community went out to the polls to vote for this individual, and I feel that that is an important factor here. So that's what I'm leaning towards. Thank you, Darlene.
Thank you, Trustee Thatcher. Over to Trustee Edwards.
I'm wondering if people could provide an information before I make any further comments on options as far as the cost to run the ads and timelines, etc. as well, just to have that information as well.
I'm not sure if Councillor Cotter or Associate Director Wright would have information on this.
I could begin perhaps, if that's okay. And then we actually have our communications officer here as well in terms of the costs of media. So our understanding, according to the bylaws, is that you would need to decide on the process by November 27th, and that interviews would then occur by January 11th. So we would be advertising by November 27th and interviews on January 11th. And Robert, do you have any information in terms of some typical media costs and what that would look like? Certainly we would promote it through all of our social media and any free opportunities as well in local media. But Robert, do you have any other further information?
Through you, Madam Chair. To advertise in Oshawa would be this week, which is the DurhamRegion.com series of newspapers. For a 1/6-page advertisement, it would be $700 plus 65 times 2 weeks. At this moment, I don't have the advertising costs for the Oshawa Express, but I would anticipate that it would be of a similar nature.
Thank you very much for that.
So based on that information, if I can, Madam Chair, in that I'm looking at timelines, when they would be advertised, and most of it would be basically during the holiday season. I also look at the efforts provincially, what was done in order to promote the role of trustees. And across the province, and I know even within Durham, we had a huge number of people put their names forward in interest because of that. There was actually quite a large number of group that put their name in for the Oshawa trustee. If I remember, there was something like 9 candidates. And considering the narrow margin, I just, as previous trustees have mentioned that they were voted by the constituents of the city of Oshawa. I just feel that at this point in time, and because it was a narrow margin, there was input from the constituents. I realize that the data is a couple of years old. I just feel that it's just better to go with the fourth candidate, the next runner-up. If it was a different timing and a different timing, and if there was a huge margin between the candidates, I might have reflected differently, because I agree that when it comes to, we want to try to get diversity and reflect the diversity. That's what I would be looking for. But at this point in time, I just fiscally and time-wise, I prefer the option of taking the next. Asking the next candidate if they want to see if they're still eligible and if they're interested.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Edwards. I have Trustee Brainy next on the speakers list. Trustee Brainy, I think you're on mute.
Thank you, Chair Forbes. I think what we're trying to do here is put together a process. So I have, since this position has become vacant, I have received people that have shown an interest and have sent resumes in. They've been forwarded off to Trustee Admin Assistant Kim Cox. It's also unclear whether or not the fourth place candidate would accept that. So I think we got to put a process together. I think we have a real opportunity here to. I'm leaning towards the interview and going through that process, just due to the fact that I've already received resumes in good faith that have been sent in from the Oshawa community. And I think that there is a real opportunity. There's a leadership opportunity. There's an equity opportunity for a board, and that's certainly where I would be leaning at this point in time. And I have not heard whether the fourth place candidate, if we had made that decision, is even willing to accept that position, and that's unclear to me.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe I have Trustee Barrett hasn't spoken, so we'll go over to Trustee Barrett now.
Thank you, Chair Forbes. I don't believe that we should circumvent the democratic process. I understand that there's lots of people that are interested in becoming a trustee. I've had a couple of emails as well inquiring about the process. But I think that there is a methodology by which, when a candidate puts their name forward in an election, understands what the role is, has done their, expressed their desire to be able to be represented. And so therefore, I believe that we should offer the position to the individual who finished fourth. I'm not even going to talk about experience. I don't believe that necessarily is the indicator. It's about being able to, I think, listen to listen to the vote and the voice of the constituents of Oshawa. And so therefore, I would be I would be in favor of being able to go forward with offering that position to the candidate. Trustee Brainy raises a very good point. We don't know if that individual wants to be able to potentially step forward, but that could also be part of the motion or part of the decision-making process in the decision that gets passed tonight, that because I recognize there is a need, and I think this is where trustees Brady's driving towards. There's a need to be able to move forward. There's tight timelines, but I think that it could be option B could be as much as the motion or decision going forward as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Barrett. I have Trustee Crawford next on the speakers list.
Is there anyone who hasn't spoken yet, or?
No, everybody else has spoken.
No, of course, I'm leaning in that direction. That's what I wanted. I guess the question comes to mind that if person A was not willing to, do we go to person B and C? Because, Kim, if you're on the line, do you have that list that I sent in? Have we got a list of the election results there so that we know what we're talking about?
I have it in front of me, Paul.
Okay, so there's obviously more than one potential candidate from there. There's the obvious one that finished close, but are there two others as well that were not successful that could be approached if item A?
If I may, Madam Chair, there are 5 others on the list.
Oh, so we've got quite a selection if we start with the number 1 selection first. Okay, thank you for answering that.
Thank you. Right, I apologize. Over to Trustee Lundquist.
So, I mean, I think it's fairly clear where the board is on this, so I don't want to belabor this and take everybody's time. I just observe that, you know, it's possible that all of these people that ran could absolutely apply and still be included in the process. And I just wanted to observe also that I'm not against democratic decision making. I understand that, but I also understand that was 2 years ago, and moments and times and things change. So, you know, if that is the will of the trustees, I certainly respect that. I just think it's a bit of a lost opportunity, and so I just wanted to make that observation. Thank you.
All right. So I have 2 more people on the speakers list. So I have Trustee Morton and then Trustee Barnes.
This is another observation. And when Nora talked about the timing, I'm thinking this timing is very unfortunate because the whole year 2021, we would want that new trustee to fulfill roles on different committees. But if that person isn't available for the December meeting, I don't think that person would have any chance to serve on those committees. How does that work?
I might put that over to Councillor Cotter. If we have a trustee come in midstream and our December we've already decided on who is going to which committees. Is there any opportunity to augment those committees with the new trustee?
I think the chairman, the chairperson role would be fulfilled, obviously, and the vice chair of those committees would be filled. But my first impression would be that there would be no reason why the board could permit that trustee to sit on committees that the trustee wanted to be a part of. If that required if that worst case scenario could require an amendment to the setup of the committee, but that could be done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Oh, I have more people on the list. Oh, sorry, Trustee Barnes, did you put your hand down or?
Yes, I did. I'm not going to belabor points,
okay.
So I'll just leave that go.
Sure. Okay. So back to Trustee Crawford and then Trustee Templeton.
No, just speaking to what Trustee Morton said, the person's not going to be available for the December elections. Was that the concern? But obviously, they can serve on any committees that they wish to attend. They don't have the opportunity to be chairs or that type of thing. what Trustee Morton meant, was worried about them not being able to be part of the election?
I was thinking of the SAL committee. I was thinking of the many committees that we sign up for at that December meeting.
Well, that would be true, but they probably wouldn't be here for that, and not the time for that anyway, but they could still serve on committees. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. Trustee Templeton.
Okay, I was just thinking out of the box here. If the next in line decides not to accept, is there an opportunity at that point where we can move on to an interview process? So that if there's not an exception, then we move into an interview process and we move from A to B. It's just out of the box thinking. I'm just thinking of a way of covering off everything at once.
Okay. Trustee Barnes? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, no. Trustee Lundquist, what was so there was, I don't have my numbers in front of me, so there was fourth, fifth person, what was the difference in that one?
Valerie Arnold was fifth and had 5,222 votes.
5,220.
So 790 votes less than the fourth place candidate. And then there's a bigger gap between that person and the next ones. Okay. We move into the 2000s after that.
So it was about 800 between
four and
third
five
person, and if we're skipping the fourth person, if we're going between the third and the fifth, it was about 800 votes, you're saying?
No, sorry, I wasn't being clear. It's actually between, sorry, and I'm wrong too. I misread it. It's 1,200. Sorry, it's 1,200 votes between the fifth person and the fourth person. So almost, at 1,300 votes between the trustee that won. No, that doesn't make sense. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So between the third position and the fifth position, should the fourth not be available, would be over 1,300 votes approximately.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd be more comfortable with that process going out, I guess.
Can I make a suggestion? Madam Chair?
Yes, absolutely.
This might be up to Trustee Barrett, but the last time we did this, we did give the chair leeway to make some inquiries of the potential candidates. Is that something that we could do in this instance too, to sort of narrow it down?
Sorry, the chair of the board is...
The chair of the board did it at that time, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the chair of the board, but we did make some inquiries. Michael, maybe you could comment on that?
And Trustee Barrett has his hand up, so we'll move over to Trustee Barrett.
Yeah, I'll comment on that specifically with the last two unfortunate vacancies. The board did authorize the chair of the board, at that point myself, to be able to make inquiries to find out if there was an interest in being able to serve. So to Trustee Crawford's point, so therefore the board had an understanding of the potential outcome as well. So and I was going to suggest, Darlene, Chair Forbes, I was going to kind of try and move this forward, but before I think we do that or entertain that, I would really like to, I understand you're in the chair's role, but you and I as representing Oshawa, I would really like to understand and appreciate your viewpoint, and would ask the indulgence of the board for you to be able to participate in the discussion. I think it's very important as the other Oshawa trustee.
Thank you. Well, I was waiting for everybody to have their say. So I I can honestly, personally say that having people cast their votes for me was incredibly humbling and moving experience, and I absolutely respect and honor that. It keeps me grounded in everything I do as a trustee. And so, I do understand everybody's viewpoints. I see both sides for sure. But when I do look at our strategic priorities and I see equity and diversity there, and as a lifelong resident, and I won't tell you how many years that is, but as a lifelong Oshawa resident, this is a place that is incredibly diverse, and it is changing all of the time. And the complexity and the diversity of our community, I betcha, has changed even more so since 2018 when I ran for this position. So, I see both sides. I would really think that, and given the holiday season we're probably in for, where people aren't going to be traveling, people are probably going to be home more. And I do appreciate, but I don't think the fiscal implications are so incredibly great that it would offset the benefits of having to choose from really interested and potentially diverse candidates. So that is how I feel. Thank you. Oh, sorry, on mute, Trustee Barrett.
Thank you, Chair Forbes, for being able to share that. What I would like to do is I'd like to actually put a motion on the floor that and I might need help being able to craft this, but that the Durham, the Board of Trustees, the Durham District School Board, in conjunction with bylaw number 8, move forward with the appointment of the runner-up Oshawa trustee candidate in the election of 2018 to be able to fulfill the vacancy. I'm trying to just put it in, and maybe it's process, but certainly I would, I'm trying to put in there and something in the motion that to be able to give authority to the chair of the board to be able to approach the candidate to find out if there is indeed an interest in being able to serve. And if the individual is willing to serve, to have that individual sworn in at the December 7th, 2020 board meeting. So close so they can participate in the appointment to committees. So that wasn't part of the motion. That was just kind of the rationale. Now I may need help with making sure, Council Cotter, that it fits all the requirements.
Chair Forbes?
Yes.
My apologies for interrupting this way. And I certainly understand that Council Cotter may have more to add, but I'm wondering if it would be helpful for trustees if we start to put things on the screen so you can see it in front of you.
Yes, please.
It'll just take us one moment, and then we can refine before it moves further as far as further advice.
So may I make a suggestion, Trustee Barrett, that we would move the second paragraph, that we give the authority to the chair of the board to approach the individual, And then if they are willing and able and interested, then we would move forward with the appointment. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Yeah, certainly makes sense.
With the, with your blessing, Madam Chair, might I suggest some language coming out of the bylaw?
Oh, absolutely. And I do see Trustee Lundquist has her hand up. Do you want to?
Yeah, so I don't have an objection to what's there, although I think I would change some wording myself. But I'm worried about where this leaves us. So if that person isn't available, I just think we need a secondary portion, because if this is the will of the trustees and that individual isn't available to serve or doesn't choose to serve, then what?
Can we just make it plural?
I think I could be wrong, but I think there was more coming, but we kind of switched to the on-screen for the.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry.
Yep, that's okay. So over to you, Councillor Cotter, to insert the words from the bylaw, and then back to you, Trustee Barrett, if that's okay.
Thank you.
I was just going to build on, and I'm going to be quiet. I was going to build on what Trustee Lundquist has said, because there was going to be a second part to be able to your point, Nikki, in case, and to build on what Scott was saying. So.
Perfect.
One other comment, should that not read December 7th?
Yes, I believe that's our.
According to my calendar.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you. So we will go back to Councillor Cotter.
So, Rob, if we can go back up to the top, I would suggest the following: that the vacancy be filled by appointing one of the unsuccessful trustee candidates from the last municipal election in the vacated electoral area. Namely, comma. Are we just doing the first runner-up, or do you want them both listed?
There should be multiple. There should be multiple choice with the first choice and then on.
Well, I'm not sure that was the motion.
Well, I'm only suggesting that.
It was certainly the intent of the motion, Council Cotter. It wasn't to. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe. Sorry.
That's why I'd use the words "the next runner-up" in order to be able to indicate.
Yeah.
I was going to suggest another, if in event of, I was going to certainly suggest that the vacancy be filled, be offered to the individual who finished fifth. Yes.
Okay. So how about if we did this: that the vacancy be filled by one of the unsuccessful candidates from the last municipal election. So that's the first part. Then next, let's just start a new paragraph. Yeah, perfect. That in filling the position, the chair of the committee reach out to the following individuals in the order listed, each of which was an unsuccessful trustee candidate from the last municipal election in the vacated electoral area, to confirm the following. And drop down that the candidate remains eligible in accordance with the provisions of clause 2.2 of bylaw number 8. And secondly, that the candidate is willing to accept the appointment and is willing and able to attend the next meeting of the board. And then we would have to list the candidates in order. Which would be, and I can pull up the list if you give me a second. Linda Stone would be first. Just give me 1 minute, I'll pull up this.
Yeah. I have it.
Take your time. We've gone for coffee.
Yeah. Derek Bellamy was next.
Yeah, just because this is becoming everybody's motion, so I'm quite comfortable with that. But I'm just the numbers that Trustee Lundquist had pointed out. There was a huge discrepancy between, I believe, the finishing. I saw the numbers in the chat between Valerie and the next. I would suggest, now that's only Mike Barrett, but I understand we're all trying to potentially work on this together. I would suggest that it stops at that point. Because I believe.
Apologize. I misunderstood the intent. I will just.
No. I mean, because we're all contributing. Because I think Trustee Lundquist, because you had the numbers, there was 5,000 votes or something for candidate Arnold, and then it was significantly less after that, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so.
Yeah, so it goes Linda Stone, 64, these are approximate. Linda Stone, approximately 6,400. Valerie Arnold, approximately 5,200. Next would be Derek Bellamy at 2,900.
If I may, Madam Chair, if we limit it, we run out of the two, where do we go from there? So they're still part of that election process. There's a good chance we won't get to 3 and 4, but I think they should be listed.
I believe the bylaw provides for the interviewing portion, which I will go to Trustee Barrett and ask him if that is the intent of the next part of the motion.
I hear what Trustee Crawford is saying, and I guess I'm scratching my head because I don't want to be disingenuous in the sense that if we're talking about offering it to people who put their name forward, then do we continue on the list of candidates of individuals that put their name forward? So I don't have an opinion yet. I have to mull it over.
Okay. So Trustee Crawford, I still see your hand up. Did you have more to offer, or?
Well, just that, and the other thing, Patrick, you mentioned about being able to attend the December meeting. I wouldn't want it to be hooked on that type of thing. I wouldn't want, if the person said, I'd love to do it, but I can't be there on December, we don't want to make that a requirement. We might want to make it would be preferred if the person could attend. But we don't want to make it a requirement that they have to fall out and we go down to the next one.
Yeah, I'm just looking at through you, Madam Chair, I'm looking at the bylaw, and it just provides that the appointed candidate shall attend the next board meeting. So, but I think that's after the board makes the appointment. So the board would make the appointment on the 7th, and then the candidate would attend the next meeting, which would be the January, the whatever it is. So the board would have to appoint, and then the candidate shall attend the next board meeting is how the bylaw reads. So, it'd be the next meeting of the board following the board meeting at which the candidate is appointed.
But could we get them into the 9th if they desire to be there, or the 7th? Is it?
Well, I mean, it's for the board. It's certainly for the board to interpret its own bylaw. The language is that the committee has to make a recommendation to the board. The board has to make the appointment.
I see what you're saying.
And then the candidate shall attend the next board meeting is how the bylaw is worded. But as I say, it's for the board to interpret their own bylaw, but that's how it's worded.
Chair Forbes?
Yes, Director Marsh?
Sorry, I just wanted to, so in putting the motion up on the screen so that all trustees could see it, it was so that it would be perfectly clear what trustees would then be voting upon. I think that Trustee Barrett was making the motion and he requested some advice from Council Cotter in terms of the bylaw information. And so I'm wondering if we actually complete the motion as per Trustee Barrett's request, and then it could open up the discussion then on the motion that is actually written.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. Trustee Barrett, are you good to go ahead?
I think, if I might, though, I think I inserted that language at the next meeting of the board, but I think it should say at the next meeting of the board, following the meeting at which the candidate is appointed. If that's agreeable, Trustee Barrett, I'm just saying if
It is agreeable because it does not preclude the board from having a special board meeting to be able to appoint the trustees. So indeed we fulfill the requirements of the bylaw, because I would say, Council Cotter, that you're correct. The bylaw is quite clear on the process. It's the meeting after the appointment, but that doesn't preclude from the board being able to have a special board meeting to be able to appoint. So, which then would fulfill the bylaw. So the language is right? I agree with the language is what I'm saying. So, because it is in the bylaw. So,
if I might also suggest we contact them in order, and then I'm just thinking of language to say that they're going to be ranked. I mean, maybe it's implicit in that, but if Linda Stone accepts, she would get it, even if Valerie Arnold confirmed. Maybe that's clear enough as drafted. They're to be contacted in that order.
Yes, there is the other piece that says whether or not we add something to this motion that says that in event that both candidates are not willing to accept that being able to go to an interview process. I'm trying to get the language there. I think it's Robert who's typing. I'm not sure who's typing, but I think it's Robert. So.
Couldn't we just say that we would reconvene if both of these candidates are unavailable?
I think through you, Madam Chair, I think the concern would be timing.
That's
Trustee
right.
Morton, I'm not sure we have time to reconvene and get this posted in time. So I think if I could suggest one paragraph before we get to the alternative position, which is that the committee would recommend to the board assuming that they meet those criteria, that candidate would be recommended in order. So something like that. Sorry, I'm not being very clear with my language here, but that the first person contact shall be recommended. There you go.
Patrick, isn't that wording part of the bylaw? Wouldn't we go to the next item in the bylaw if the two were not available? You're saying then to go to a different process, which is outlined in the bylaw, correct?
But it would be open to the board to go further down the list, for example, right? I mean, I think that's the discussion. Do you go further down the list, or do you opt for the other stream?
Well, if we're going to go further down the list, shouldn't those people be on this list? I'm sorry.
Sorry, Paul. I was just hoping that Trustee Barrett could first finish his motion, and then we could have discussion to the motion.
I thought we were helping him to finish it.
I'll ask Trustee Barrett if he would like help or if he's just going to plug ahead.
Well,
Yes.
I think we'll plug ahead. I'm just looking to see if we could just scroll down a little bit to make on that last paragraph. I think it's Robert. Yeah, good, perfect, okay. Yes, I believe Chair Forbes, that summarizes the intent. So
wonderful.
The only other thing that we would have to do on the alternative position. Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. The only other thing we'd have to do in the alternative position is set the deadline for the application. The application deadline would have to go in. The committee proceed with the steps set out in section 2.3 of bylaw 8, and that the deadline for the applications be blank. I think would to round it out.
So, Trustee Barrett.
Yep. So I was just going to suggest that the deadline for applications. So let's say we find out in the next couple of days. Let's say we find out by the end of the week. We advertise the next week, which is the week of the 23rd, that all applications be in by the 7th. On the Monday, the Friday would be the 8th, 9th, 10th. I'm just going to say that all applications would be in by December the 11th. Is that too late, Patrick? I'm just looking at your face.
Well, no, I would defer actually to Director Marsh or Communication Officer Robert Serjanik on that. They've done the analysis on the timeline.
So I think if the applications were due in by January 4th, that would provide us sufficient time to set up the interviews.
Okay, January the 4th is fine with me, Director.
All right, so we can see the motion on the screen, but would anyone like it read aloud? If that would make a discussion easier?
Yes.
Okay. I can't see the whole thing, so, okay.
Someone trying to make the font bigger?
All right, Robert, if you would feel, I don't know if you have a microphone, if you could read it aloud, you would. Okay. I will read it. I can see it all now. Thank you. Okay, so the motion that's moved by Trustee Barrett is that the vacancy be filled by one of the unsuccessful trustee candidates from the last municipal election from the vacated electoral area, and that in filling the position, the chair of the committee, was it the chair of the committee or the chair of the board?
I'm comfortable with either, so you are the chair of the committee. I'm comfortable with that, Trustee Forbes, if you are.
Sure, absolutely. That the chair of the committee reach out to the following individuals in the order listed. Number 1, Linda Stone. Number 2, Valerie Arnold. That each of which was an unsuccessful trustee candidate from the last municipal election in the vacated electoral area, to confirm the following. A, that the candidate remains eligible in accordance with the provisions of clause 2.2 of bylaw number 8, and that the candidate is willing to accept the appointment and is willing to attend the next meeting of the board following the appointment. that the first person contacted in the order list confirm both of the foregoing shall be recommended to the board for that appointment. That in the event that both candidates decline the appointment, that the committee proceed to fill the vacancy by offering the position to a broader range of electors, and that in doing so, the committee proceed with the steps set out in section 2.3 of bylaw number 8, and that the deadline for applications received by the secretary of the board be no later than January 4th, 2021. So I do, so there is a motion on the floor. Because we are in committee, ad hoc committee, we do not need a seconder, but I do see hands up for discussion. So I see I do see Trustee Lundquist has her hand up, and then Trustees Barnes and Crawford.
Thank you. So one is just what I think is a minor amendment at when you reference 2.3, I actually think it needs to say 2.3 sub 2, because 2.3 sub 1 says something entirely different in terms of process. So I think that it needs to specify that it's the process under sub 2 that you're talking about. And I presume that that's a friendly amendment and there won't be an objection to it.
Yes, no objection.
So, if I might, through you, Madam Chair, section 2.3, open bracket A, close bracket, through to open bracket G. And if I might also, while I have my microphone on, Robert, after we have the two names listed, I don't think we need a that there. So it would just be each of which correct. And then a comma after electoral area in that first, right after the names, each of which was an unsuccessful trust candidate from the municipal last comma to confirm the foregoing, to confirm the following.
You're taking my corrections.
There you go. Thank you.
And then I just have an observation, and it's a funny observation in light of the fact that I clearly have a preference for a different process. But it seems odd to me, truly, to say the voice of the electorate matters and then decide where that voice doesn't matter any longer. So I'm struggling with that in this motion, because if you say that with respect to the first two, then the other three also had votes of the electorate. I mean, they're not as many, but they weren't as many as the first three either for the next two. So I feel like it's a little bit arbitrary, honestly. And I'm puzzled by it because it doesn't seem to make sense with the rationale, right? If we are appointing with this process, which is viewed as taking into account the voices of the electorate, then I don't know why we are deciding in between where the electorate voice doesn't matter. I just am puzzled by that. It seems inconsistent to me.
May I suggest you amend it?
I don't think I want to amend it, Trustee Crawford, because I'm actually more comfortable with that process, the second part of the process, than the first. So it's just an observation that I think is an important part of the discussion, but I'm not going to amend it, because I actually think that if we get to the second part of this process, we may actually create opportunities for more diversity, and that's what I support. So.
Thank you. Trustee Crawford.
Okay, well, I will amend it, and those names, I'm suggesting that those names be added at least. No, I think you have to add them all. But my main suggestion is this, that when the chair approaches these, if the first person you approach is Linda and she accepts, I would suggest you just stop there. What's the use of speaking to the other people in raising their hopes, because we know what our selection is going to be. So just as a matter of operations, you probably don't need to go down to 2, 3, 4, 5 if number 1 accepts.
So,
But I would agree with Trustee Lindquist that if we're to be consistent, the other name should be there. And I'm proposing that we do that.
Okay, so you're making a motion to amend?
I'm amending it to add the other names, yes.
Okay, so Robert, so could you, as per Trustee Crawford, add the remaining
well, maybe first, Madam Chair, we should take a vote, because if the vote is against
good point.
against my amendment, then you don't have to put them in. But anyway, it's not bad to have them there. Go ahead.
Good point. Okay, so we have an amended motion. So we would need to vote. So if we could use the yes, or I apologize. Do we have discussion to the amendment? And I do see hands up. So I don't know if these are discussions to the amendment, but I see Trustee Trustee Edwards.
Actually, I have to think about this. My hand was up for a comment that Paul made in the about, because we actually say in the motion is contact in the following in the order listed. Mm-hmm. So it's my assumption that you would only go to the first and then go to second. So that was covered. And I'll think about the other. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification, Donna.
Perfect. Trustee Crawford, you still have your hand up. Do you want to speak to your amendment? Nope. Okay, perfect. So we are voting for the amendment, which is to add the remaining names. So if you could use your yes and no voting buttons. Okay, I don't know if I took mine off. So I'm just making sure everyone has voted. So I don't see everybody voting, so, but it looks like it doesn't carry the amendment. So I apologize for the typing, Robert. So if you could clear your check mark, we'll move on to the original motion that was on the floor. Is there any other discussion or amendment proposed? Seeing none, could you please vote using your yes and no buttons?
I don't see my yes and no button with this screen.
Oh dear. Okay.
Can Roberts, there I have it. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, so I believe that carries. All right. So we have a process. I will work with the Councillor Cotter to find the contact information for Linda Stone and Valerie Arnold, and we'll work through as per the process outlined in the motion. And we need to set a date for our next meeting.
As per Michael's suggestion, is it possible to have a special board?
Well, this committee would need to meet.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
First. Mm-hmm.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
It's okay. I think we're all kind of anxious to move forward. So I don't anticipate that reaching out to the two candidates should take more than the next couple of days. So would it next week?
How about Thursday?
I know that I can't personally do Thursday. How does the 24th work?
Isn't something happening on the 24th?
The 23rd, we have a meeting.
Can we go to Director Marsh? She has a sense of all of the meetings that she has and that we have.
Absolutely. Director Marsh?
Thank you. I'm not sure if I'm hoping you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. So I was going to suggest, I believe that we do have a governance committee meeting next week. I was just looking, it was popping up and I've lost it again. I believe on the 23rd, I have that we're all together at 5:30, so we could potentially have a special board connected to that committee meeting.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Is that all right? Is there any objections to that at this point? No? Okay.
Sorry, Darlene, just, I noticed Patrick's, and I was going to say the same thing, that indeed, since we already have a motion, if one of them accepts, we really don't need to have another committee meeting because we already have the direction.
Okay.
So, yeah, so.
Yeah, we would just recommend at the next board meeting.
My apologies. I thought you would want a special board meeting prior to that December 7th meeting.
Yeah, that was what I had certainly suggested, that we could do that in order to have the potential of one of the two candidates, if they accept, available for that first meeting. So
if there's a complication, we could then convert special board into another ad hoc committee meeting should the committee need to meet again.
So if through you, Madam Chair, if I might, to call the special board, you'd have to have the chair do that or the majority of the members to vote on that. So I don't know if you want to deal with that tonight as well.
Let's set it up.
Okay. I would.
Excuse me, Chair Forbes. When we were talking about majority of the board, are we talking? I just had a quick question around that. Are we talking about 7 people, 7 votes to have a special board, or the chair? Just a point of clarification. Sorry, what would be majority?
To have the
chair would call the special meeting, or the majority of the board. I was just thinking back to our recent meeting. Is that majority 7?
I believe it's the chair that can call the special board meeting with notice, and then if we want to add things to the agenda, that it's all of the trustees would have in attendance would have to agree. Is that?
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Chair Forbes?
Yes.
May I just suggest that we ask Chair Brainy to call a special board meeting if that occurs, and then I can't imagine that's an issue in any way. So seems like an easy path forward.
Okay.
I thought the suggestion of the director was that it be held on the same night that we're having a committee meeting. Wouldn't that work best for everybody? What
So
was the date? What was the date of that?
So we do have the governance meeting on the 23rd. So what I would suggest is, pending the outcome of the conversations that I'll have this week, it will either be a special board meeting to
On that date.
On that date, or if not, it would be a committee meeting.
Okay, we've got lots of notice.
Okay, so our next, if we do need, in the event that we do need another committee meeting, it will be next Monday on the 23rd, I guess at 5 p.m. before the governance meeting. And then in the event this meeting is not required, notice will go out of a special board meeting. Okay. Thank you all for your patience. There's no other business for this meeting, therefore we are adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Hey, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.